Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll be sitting down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing. In our Alfred Hitchcock spot, we have The Birds from 1963. We then have our newly released films. We have Hurry Up Tomorrow by Trey Edward Schultz. And finally, Final Destination's Bloodlines, directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein. So let's see what Vincent Daly has to say about these three movies. We'll get him in the room here. Stay tuned and enjoy the show. Mr. Vincent Daly, how are we doing over there, my friend?
Thomas, long time no see.
That's going. How about it? I've seen you a lot this week.
Yeah.
How were your three movies this week, man?
Three movies were early. Got them done early.
Good, very good.
Folks, Tom and I just came back from a fishing trip, so a little bit under the gun. But
daily ratings retreat.
Yeah, right. It's on the books, on the taxes. Tax write-off. But no, good. Honestly, this week was a little scattered to begin with. I think we might have mentioned it, but was flirting the idea of a full Final Destination series breakdown. That's 6 movies, major 6 slot. Also was flirting the idea of a Trey Edward Schultz director study. He has 4 main movies, including Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Okay.
A new writer-director on the scene, or fairly new.
And we don't know him at all.
Yeah, and could have been, equally in the episode, but I think the juggling act was just a little bit too much.
No, this is good. And we still got Alfie in there.
Yeah, we got Alfie.
Did you have
Old Al.
Did you have not a strategy, but a reason for picking The Birds this week?
I'll say it in the start of the review. Really, it's the only thing that I could vaguely tie to the kind of like the disaster movie style of Final Destination. And I honestly, just like last year when we covered Vertigo, I was a little iffy. And I think even you said I would have been a little iffy last year on covering The Birds just because it is.
I had a hunch. I just had a hunch that it's one of the most recognized names.
Sure.
And people know some still shots from it and everything like that, and all the birds attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I know you somewhat. And something about The Birds was like, I don't know if Vin's going to end up liking this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, it was tough because it's one of those things where it is so iconic.
Yes, it is.
You're kind of challenged.
Kind of renowned, like when you go through it critically rated and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's I'll throw back to a real old review when we covered RoboCop in the Paul Verhoeven study. It's like, wow, Jesus, we're coming up against there's a huge expectation of this film. I still have to kind of now communicate why I don't like it.
Foreshadowing.
Right.
Any other opening notes at all?
What's the order you want to go here? Birds, then what?
I was going to do Hurry Up Tomorrow and then Final Destinations just because it did so much better at the box office.
True, yeah. And critically as well. So
that's
absolutely.
true too, actually.
Absolutely. That works for me.
Okay, so we're jumping back, almost 60 years? Longer than 60 years. 1963. Alfred Hitchcock with The Birds. I think
The Birds.
We covered a lot of his 50 stuff last year, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're getting later into his.
This is definitely the latest that we've done, and probably will be the latest we ever touch of his career.
He doesn't do late 60s?
No, he does. I think he has 4 or 3 other movies after this, but all of them are really not even names that make it to the top Hitchcock lists at all. So, and that's something we've talked about.
Did he peter out?
Yeah, I think he did. He
did his Quentin Tarantino 10 films, and then after that.
And then he's out.
Yeah.
But like we talked about, I think it was either on last week or the week before, it was, Hitchcock lists, what's top Hitchcock, almost anyone has an opinion of what they are, and they're all kind of right in a way. And after a while, you start to get a feel of like what are truly the heavy hitters, even though it's not one answer. You know what I mean?
Because everybody's got their own flavor that they like the most from him.
Yeah, which era of him and whatnot.
And largely, it's what do you think? 8 that really, like, if you think Hitchcock, there's 8 films that people kind of come to mind.
I think that's a good number.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, well, I mean, it's a huge name, The Birds. It's 2 hours long. It's longer than I thought, and I was going to sit down and watch it, and I was like, I don't have time. I can't watch this. I don't have time for this.
Yeah, you're not going to surprise me with seeing Final Destination, are you?
No. There's no surprises. I'll tell you that right now.
No surprises this week.
By the way, good. We had some good comments on the summer blockbuster talk. That replaced a new show.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know, just because the nature of summer, we had a lot of gas in the tank, a lot of ammo to work with. Right. I don't know if that's something that we can do all the time, or maybe like once a quarter or something like that. But we'll see.
Per season.
Yeah, per season. We definitely like doing it. So thanks for everyone that was reaching out and
had a couple
enjoyed
people.
it.
So okay, all right, we'll get into it. How did Alfie do this week?
So our next film for the Hitchcock study, we take probably the biggest step forward in his career that we've gone to one of his last commercial hits towards the the twilight of him working as a director. By this point in Hitchcock's life, this is post-Psycho, which I feel like is a very important milestone or mile marker.
That was 60?
Yeah, 60 on the dot. And then also post his TV miniseries, started in 55, I want to say ended at 62. So he's really fully settled into not only Hitchcock being a auteur, a legend, a personality as well that people want to see. He's fully settled in his horror thrillers that we most know him for. You know what I mean? I feel like when you dive into Hitchcock a little bit, that's when you come across like Rebecca or like the old films. But
Lodger.
When you say Hitchcock, almost like an Edgar Allan Poe or something like that, you associate with the macabre, and that's that's what it is here. We're fully in that era. It landed as a choice this week, like I said, because, boy, I actually didn't know what I wanted to tackle. And loosely, the disaster horror spin of The Birds was the only thing to come close to Final Destination. That's a stretch. I know that's a stretch, but I will argue that this is a disaster movie at heart, and also Final Destination is a disaster movie at heart. But
I have to say, I mean, it's actually some good ratings coming out for that Final Destinations.
Right.
I think the most glowing praise ever. It's like, we did The Birds because it's actually the closest we can get to. Like, anywhere Alfred Hitchcock attached to Final Destination Bloodlines.
Yeah, that's
oh boy.
Yeah. That's a hell of a connection. In my opinion, though, you can definitely spot the many horror qualities in this movie that have now become commonplace. What makes it iconic. It is unfortunately a case where an original work of something, the origins of something, might be unfortunately the dullest version of it. I can't let it affect my opinion of this movie, and it really won't, but Hitchcock did make one of the ballsiest trailers I've ever seen for this. What's titled, Mr. Hitchcock Would Like to Say a Few Words to You, ... is a just over 5-minute trailer. Crazy as far as trailer goes.
Yeah, very good.
5 minutes, what the hell? But it's just Hitchcock giving a lecture about birds for 4 straight minutes.
I love that.
I love it's informative. I mean, it maybe works as a separate, companion piece to this. But yeah, like 4 straight minutes, you were just listening to this man wax poetic about man's relationship with birds, and that is only to be interrupted by our lead actress, Tippi Hedren, busting into the room looking for shelter from screeching, murderous birds. I don't think there's been a trailer like this since. As far as like kind of a mixed role, the director being a persona, it being kind of a bait and switch of like, wait, what am I watching? And then it's like, oh, it's a horror trailer. Like, so cool. This was really like such a cool little piece to attach to this movie.
They used to do cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I mean, what's the goal of the trailer? We want asses in seats when the film comes out.
Or Hitchcock just hearing himself talk.
Right. No, and Hitchcock is great. It makes me think back to the 1950s court movie, Anatomy of a Murder, and that had a really cool trailer to it
Right.
because all the main cast or something like that went on the witness stand.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just think, wow, you guys could actually be clever back then.
Yeah, right. And then also, like, it's not even directly about the movie itself, so no spoilers, like what we always
which is fantastic.
complain about.
And let's be honest, Alfred Hitchcock is a selling point.
Yes.
Like putting him in the trailer and just letting him cook.
Absolutely. That's exactly why I bring this up in kind of like the talk about his career. Is by this point he is a salesman for his own ideas. You know, and it's just a one of a kind promotion. I mean, I don't know if any movie would have like a 5 to 6 minute slot they would be able to do for a trailer.
Can you imagine Tom Cruise? He'll be rolling the rounds after 20 seconds.
It would be real G's.
It would be
real jets, real G's.
Jets, real G's.
But something only Hitchcock could pull off. And a really cool note. I mean, even if you don't watch The Birds, maybe look this up. It's actually, I think it's on the autoplay on IMDb for The Birds as well. So really, really just a perfect capsule of how much control Hitchcock has of his projects at this point. Partially adapting a short story and partially based on a freak bird accident that really happened in 1961, The Birds is one of the earliest horror movies to capture the trend we see in the genre to this day. Actress Tippi Hedren plays our lead, Melanie. One hell of a curious woman. I mean, this girl needs a job. She's got nothing better to do. She becomes obsessed with Mitch, a lawyer played by Rod Taylor, when he kind of confronts her in a store. Ballsy on his part, more ballsy on her part, though. She follows him all the way to his vacation home like a stage 5 clinger. She plans to, plant a cute gift by breaking into his home, which works out somehow and sparks a romance. So take notes, ladies. In life, rarely do we see the breadcrumbs to impending doom, however. So when freak accidents and odd behavior from the birds start happening, no one really pays attention to any of it. Most of all, our new lovers. That is until this avian menace starts gouging people's eyes out, leaving the small town of Bodega Bay hopeless as to what upset the balance between bird and man. I really won't hold back my punches here. I can't say I really enjoy this very much.
Okay, there we go.
I guess I already didn't hold my punch. I mean,
well, listen, we're glad you liked the trailer for it.
Yeah, right. And that's why I said I can't let it affect me, because if it was just based off that trailer, I mean, that's an awesome
movie's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
You take it however you want. I don't know. I'm sure you don't want to just lay into it for the next 10 minutes.
Right.
I'm curious what was failing, though, because that means it was setting things up and you weren't buying it.
And why I got to kind of lay into it a little bit. Yeah. This 2 hours, and then to your point, 100%, Tom.
Yeah.
2 hours feels like an eternity for this premise. I mean, an eternity for most horror premises. I forget where I heard it, but I think it was another podcast talking about, like, horror should only be 90 minutes, like, as a rule. Because I feel like for horror, it really does stretch it. The core story under this horror, the romance, just did not grab me at all, and it just doesn't feel like a meaningful inclusion at all. Honestly, this main romance, it feels like just a time sink to slowly plant the seeds of birds acting crazy. Oh, my chickens haven't eaten. Or, oh, birds, why are they all just standing around? I mean, my issue is that it could literally be replaced with anything. Yeah. Like, almost anything could have been the core, and birds freaking out is now the payoff. You know what I mean? And listen, would I prefer this to have, I don't know, one of the main characters be like a bird expert, or to tie to the monster somehow directly to characters? Kind of. But I understand why Hitchcock wouldn't do that. That is what separates The Birds from an entire previous decades of 50s movie monster schlock, that your main characters were the scientists tied to it. There is something as far as a mark here that Hitchcock is subverting expectations a little bit, even though we all know what the birds are, even though the title of the movie is going to be, promising these crazy birds.
Right.
There is something that no real connection to these events makes this feel a lot more chaotic as a result, if that makes sense.
Sure, but you weren't liking that.
No, I wasn't. I thought this romance could have been anything. I feel like by not tying it to anything with the birds, besides some light themes with the mother of The lawyer, it was just kind of like, throw it out. And it was boring. And it was this was a ridiculous romance premise. This woman is a stalker.
It had no stakes. You didn't care too much about what was going on.
It was just about getting us to Bodega Bay, planting the breadcrumbs of that mystery, and then payoff is the birds.
And long.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know why I realized that?
If it was even 90 minutes, all things equal, I maybe would have even been a lot more hotter on this.
The real reason why I think that I saw you when I was thinking about it a year ago, you not liking this film, is because of the annoyance of the birds.
Okay.
And the repetitiveness of it. That's the thing. It's 2 hours, and I just felt I don't even think I watched the entire thing ever.
Okay.
And I was annoyed with the product. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's a valid point, but I'll be honest. I mean, this romance and just how weird it is,
couldn't stand
it. And it's
coming
not
off
like
Rebecca
Psycho.
too. Where...
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like Psycho either. I mean, I'm kind of actually regretting not covering Psycho before this because Psycho has a false lead in. It kind of plays a bait and switch. I think it's it's about this woman stealing money, and then obviously not. This has maybe some of that quality. I can respect it slightly, but I just cannot shake how painfully slow and unsatisfying all the setup felt at the same time. So, on the positive, I think a subtle touch that works surprisingly well is the absence of any traditional soundtrack, but a double edge because that definitely adds to some of the boringness of when birds are not really in the plot at all. For my money, Al's favorite composer, Bernard Herrmann, would have done a great job with this. I think, honestly, Bernard Herrmann would have really elevated this a lot, but there is a very intentionality to what he does with the soundtrack here. Throughout the entire movie, we barely get any actual music, and instead, either deafening chirps of birds or the full chaos of the flock of crows and whatnot, the murder of crows, will flood the audio of many scenes. The audio or the sound of the birds themselves is a kind of a pitch shifty sound. It definitely sounds artificial, and turns out this is intentional as well. These crazed bird sounds come from a instrument called a tritonium, a 1930s proto-synthesizer that was a bold choice back then and really a fun rabbit hole to research for me. I love synthesizers.
I was going to say, were you looking on eBay at all? Did you find anything?
No.
What's it called again?
Tritonium.
Wow.
Tritonium. Really crazy.
Sounds like a rare metal.
Yeah, honestly. I bring this up, though, because the most and probably only effective horror element in modern day watching this is the disturbing bird sounds, a kind of cacophony that is as painful as to experience as the characters are hearing. It's meant to be grating in a very intentional way, and I think it's just further highlighted by having no other music. Like, the audio track are birds, and I think that's...
Oh, I'm cool with that. I like that.
It's something interesting.
Or did you get annoyed by it? I mean, come on.
No, but I think that's entirely realistic to get annoyed by this. Yeah. I think for me, when it comes to stuff like that in horror movies, if it's serving the horror, if it's serving the dread in some way, I'm all right with almost anything, Yeah,
that makes sense. And it's menacing and stuff and chaotic and
Yeah. But again, like the trailer, most of all, it shows that these choices from Hitchcock are intentional for the experience. And probably no director then or since has had such delicate control over the audience experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's very him. I mean, he really is.
I mean, we talk about in modern day, we'll talk about Coogler recently with Sinners, a real big IMAX push, see it in this format, but laying out the different formats, big press campaign around that itself for the film. And plenty of other examples like that, but...
Well, it's very Nolan-esque, too.
Yeah, exactly.
With Nolan.
Right.
Very particular.
Yeah, but I feel like there is probably 2 steps further that Hitchcock goes with these.
Yeah.
And it just comes from, he has that much control, so... I'll wrap up with talking about the birds themselves because I really thought the visual tech was going to be the biggest hurdle watching this, and shockingly, I was wrong. It was the romance. It was really, really disconnected with the romance at all. Most of these birds are real, so let me just say that. Some are mechanical puppets. I'm not really sure which ones are, but pretty much anytime you see them sitting in a flock on screen, that's all real trained birds, which is impressive because there's a lot of birds. There's a lot of birds. Yeah. A few scenes use this to great effect, especially after the attack starts. That feeling of kind of, in real life, walking by a bunch of birds for them to scatter in a moment. works in this film because it twists it like a potential jump scare. It's like, oh, you're walking by the bird. Are they going to, attack? That same type of visceral reaction. For the big attack sequences themselves, Hitchcock actually pulled on Disney talent to provide impressive-looking overlays of the birds. I think real good standout shots are the first real attack in a church. Probably the most iconic shot of the whole film is her being stuck in a telephone booth.
The phone booth.
Yeah. This Disney talent, it's one specific guy. They used a chemical process called yellow screening, not green screening, not really connected, but ultimately the same in the sense they want to overlay some sort of footage on the real footage.
Oh.
Some sort of animation, ultimately, is the kind of the mentality around it.
But it was shot with real birds.
Yes.
So they did a shot with that and a shot with, let's just say, take the phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
Her freaking out to nothing in a phone booth.
Yep.
Overlaid by actual real birds on another cut.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Another great example is birds flood through a chimney at one point, and it's just like they just layered 3 footages of birds freaking out over the actual
And
footage.
how did it, and the final product?
I think it looks surprisingly good.
This was the one Oscar nom for the film. Was effects.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know if it's tying it because the birds freaking out are ultimately real birds themselves.
Right.
So even though they're like kind of animated over it, if you will, still, I still thought it looked good. And don't get me wrong, it does look dated, but way better than I thought this was going to hold up. And I think it does get some points coming out in 63.
That's something.
For that impressive. So, if only, though, I wasn't bored to tears with everything else in this movie. On the podcast, we've talked plenty about watching in modern day, and usually that comes up in how a film overcomes that challenge, stands the test of time. If anything, I really always bring it up as evidence of like, no, check this out. And this may be old, you may have not heard of this movie, but check it out. This is probably going to be the go-to example of the opposite. And despite so much innovation in the project, I still can't but help and feel how old it really is. We're going to go ahead and give The Birds 1963 a 47.
Oh, boy. Okay, so The Birds got a 47. Now, we talked about this because I searched through last year's episodes and couldn't find when we made our bet or where it is. But we made a bet on the podcast.
We did. I think it was around Vertigo, but it was probably talking about before we covered Vertigo.
It was about Vertigo.
Yeah.
No. I think it was after you gave it the score.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
you were saying, I think this is going to be our lowest Hitchcock score.
Sure.
Or maybe you were saying you were hoping it was going to be the lowest Hitchcock score. And I said no. I was betting that you were going to dislike The Birds even more. Which you did.
Yes, I did.
Because Vertigo got 49, correct?
And again, the truth is, it's not really to do with the birds, not to do with the horror. It's just that filler romance. Could have been anything.
And it's too long. And it's too long with the birds still.
Sure. Very true.
I mean, come on. Okay, so 47%. Listen, I was going to find the clip and then play it, and for surprise, we'll forget the bet. Don't worry, I'll go easy on you.
There we go. I'm off the hook.
You're off the hook. But, man, I'll tell you what. This is quite the stamp. I mean,
it is.
Once in a while we go against the grain. This is going against the grain here, V.
Yeah, it is.
I'm glad to see you're not sweating bullets, so.
No, I'm not. Because, honestly, I'm not even an ounce of it, because it really did. I was watching this, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, I could see respecting it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I do respect it, the tech and whatnot, but it comes down to what I started with saying is, like, sometimes the original is the best, sometimes the original is the dullest. And not saying it's bad outright, but it is the dullest.
Yeah.
So,
how far into the film were you just like, uh-oh?
As soon as she starts following him to Bodega Bay, this woman's a psychopath. She should be in Psycho.
47%.
She's sneaking into his house.
Oh, man. And where was he's still doing his cameo thing, correct?
Oh, yes.
Hitchcock puts himself in every film.
I think he's in the diner somewhere where everyone's finally catching on. That's also another thing. It's just
What's
like
that?
The horror trope of like, oh, everything's all right. What are you talking about? And it's obviously not all right. The impending doom of it. I think he's in the diner somewhere when everyone's kind of fully catching on. So
okay. Maybe I'm completely off basis here. Okay, for a doubleheader.
Sure. Oh, okay, all right.
What is the Peter Jackson one in the early 90s? Where that town were just, what is it? Not goblins, but like...
Dead Alive?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, okay, all right.
More so actually a judgment against Dead Alive.
Well, because
I don't know if that makes sense.
Isn't that almost you're in that one town and then it's just
you are right.
an onslaught on a town. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah. I mean, really, the doubleheader for the Birds is the infamous So Bad It's Good movie, Birdemic. Birdemic is a ripoff of the Birds.
Yeah, that's right. Birdemic, Sharknado.
Right, yeah. But Birdemic was like before those asylum type of movies come out,
You're right.
where they lean into it. Birdemic is
I
trying.
forgot about that movie.
It's closer to The Room in the sense of like this is really trying to be a good movie and is like so.
Oh, it was trying to
bad.
be good.
Oh,
Birdemic.
yeah.
I forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's go. Let's step into the theater here. This is Hurry Up Tomorrow, directed by Trey Edward Schultz. You talked to him in the beginning of the thing. This is his fourth film.
Yep.
And The Weeknd, the musician, The Weeknd plays a massive part in this. I mean, first of all, he helped co-write it. He's acting in it, and well, obviously he does the music too because he has an album out that's called Hurry Up Tomorrow, correct?
Yes. Originally, I did not know that. I may have actually avoided this if that was really the case because I probably could have predicted where this was going. So
it's almost like, quite the egotistical piece here, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right.
The word for this review is puff piece.
Yeah,
So,
okay, yes, okay. So Hurry Up Tomorrow, I don't think a lot of people even know about it. It did not have a good weekend at all.
Right, in addition to like being like panned.
Yeah. Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
So you give your flavor, your taste on Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Sure thing. Well, like I said, initially for this week, I flirted with the idea of dedicating it to our director, Trey Schultz. His mark as a young writer-director on the scene comes primarily from 2019's moody drama Waves, which I feel like was almost trying to establish a similar spot in the indie landscape as something like Moonlight.
Okay. So he was
it's very moody, drama, emotional, stuff like that. However, I was immediately spooked away from this idea when I heard that this new release was getting just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah,
panned beyond pan. This is sitting online anywhere from a 30% to literally a 0, depending on where you look online. And I bring this up at the start not to pigeonhole my own thoughts on the movie. Frankly, I thought this was an excellent looking film with very unfortunate to catastrophically bad acting. But rather to highlight the most important piece of where the hate comes from, and that's going towards its lead star, The Weeknd. This has a nauseating level of self-promotion. Really, it feels like a commercial masquerading as a movie. Hurry Up Tomorrow is a vibey, trippy thriller romance that is yet another entry in this kind of growing subgenre of stories about hyperfame and obsession with wealth. We've covered on this quite a bit to the point that I almost want to throw together an impromptu special just to collect all these movies that we've talked about together and then just kind of throw like some commentary on the end because it's like these movies are an establishing genre and I don't think any of them are really doing that well.
They're not.
It's
weird. And why now? That's maybe just because now we're in the podcast, so we're actually watching these now.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess little things like that never get off the ground, little genres,
right.
come and gone.
Yeah.
So our cast has a real tight focus on 3 characters. Mostly we see the world through the Weeknd's point of view. Abel Tesfaye not only plays a fictionalized version of himself, but the plot is inseparable from his real-world music. Jenna Ortega is introduced to us on the run from a life that she does not want and eerily obsessed with the Weeknd's music as she heads out on her own. And lastly, we get kind of the visual flavor of the project coming from his tour manager, played by Barry Keoghan, who is more of a personal pharmacist fueling the drug-filled delusions we see on screen. In a messy breakup, The Weeknd is in total crisis mode, affecting even his singing voice. Fleeing his own concert, he runs into Ortega, and the two have a magical first night together. Regardless of the passion, however, the two are on a different page about what the next step should be, beginning to show the worst in themselves. While this meet cute might have sparked by sharing with each other their most vulnerable thoughts, one side of this romance has something much darker on the inside yet to be revealed. So let me start with just an ounce of good, because I think there is an ounce of good here.
Okay.
The first quarter of this movie, I was really curious what almost anyone was talking about, because I honestly thought it was it was a pretty visually stunning movie. I think the visuals of Schultz are great, honestly. I think it was a great looking movie.
So you're giving props to him, not so much the cinematographer?
Cinematographer too. Okay. I didn't really look up the cinematographer, but I feel like just like how how things are comprised as far as like what scenes are trying to tell you. I think it was a little bit more on his directing hat. But who's doing the cinematography on this?
A guy. He does a lot of credits because smaller stuff or commercials. He did like the Heineken No Time to Die stuff.
Oh, okay.
His big one of recent though, he did cinematographer on Blonde.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, for Netflix.
Definitely like Blonde. Absolutely. Schultz's directing here comes from a school of maximalism, where even the smallest transition scene, the smallest throwaway, is packed with thematic visuals that try to communicate the feelings of our characters in just a very loud way. This style in the first half, however, is ultimately an attempt at show, don't tell, and why I enjoyed it. Without a doubt, the criticism you can throw at the whole of this movie is style over substance, but for me, this fits somewhere alongside directors like Nicholas Refn or Gaspar Noé, where personally I would argue that style is at least some of the substance. Occasionally, this does look like a high-end music video, though, which does not help the feel of what is objectively wrong with this film, being a commercial for the weekend,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
But I can't lie, the aesthetics of this will make me keep an eye out for Trey Schultz and whatever he goes on to work on next, hopefully something that's not, so real world, I guess. Let's talk about The Weeknd, though, because honestly, it all comes down to him.
Yeah.
The make or break of all make or breaks. Yeah. On one hand, while this might be a fictionalized version of himself, Abel is still playing himself, which proves to be problematic when it comes to acting. There was a scene that actually made me laugh at one point, which isn't a great sign. But this critique of bad acting is nothing new for his fledgling side of his career, his new acting career. Flashback to 2023, and you will find the same vicious skewering of his acting on the HBO show The Idol, which many people that watched that show said he single-handedly sunk that whole series.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I never watched it. Looked very kind of like Euphoria, like hypersexualized HBO stuff. Yeah. But Lily Rose Depp was in it.
I'm sure she was great.
Right. It looked cool. It looked sexy. But apparently he was really, really bad in it. I will say it's actually in these moments of that I was unintentionally laughing at The Weeknd's acting that I thought there was a slight appeal to his amateur acting. It's so it's so rookie. It's so clear he's not an actor.
Right.
It kind of maybe gets something
it almost works.
Real. Yeah,
it almost works.
It feels like, he's just like a spoiled pop star. Like, this is the real dude. It's really something else. It's already floating around online, the scene I really am referring to, but there's a scene where he curses out Ortega in an argument and loses his temper. And honestly, it's bad. It's definitely bad, but I think
it almost seems real.
Exactly.
It almost seems real.
It worked because it was so not trying at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His non-acting, there was no persona. It was just that's just him pretending he's in an argument or some shit. On the other hand, regardless of where you fall on this acting, if it's unacceptable to, again, catastrophically bad, this is remarkably... It feels like a puff piece in just the worst way possible.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that there's some level of benefit to having The Weeknd be a real star in the story, so that it's able to hit the ground running on the premise. We don't have to introduce fake pop stars. We talked about this as most recent with Opus earlier this year.
Yeah.
There's a lot of downtime that you have to build up a fake pop star, fake music. There's a lot of checks there. That may not work. They hit the ground running by using his real music, but the self-references to his own career in this are borderline career masturbation on screen. There is literally a scene where Jenna Ortega sings over 3 separate songs of him, front to back, in a row, and while commenting how each one is an instant classic or an undeniable hit. Nauseating.
Yeah, it is nauseating.
I'm vomiting
especially
in my hand.
when you're not even that big of a fan of The Weeknd.
Oh, sure. That's where it's if you are not a fan of The Weeknd, you are bouncing off of this. This is ego to the max.
Yes.
Yeah. And really, on that note, listen, I would say The Weeknd has even made some cool albums over the last 5 years, conceptual, outside of his range. But all of this just reeks of self-promotion, and I'd maybe hold the punch if he didn't help write the movie.
Yeah.
That really is the make or break for me. Star in it, sure. it's his persona for the story reasons. Sure. He wrote it. It's like
He co-wrote it. Yeah, I mean,
damn, you're writing compliments to yourself, dude. Like,
I wonder. Now we don't know how to. Yeah, exactly right. Well, who knows how much he? Who knows? Maybe co-writing just means because he actually wrote the songs that are in the film.
No, maybe.
Like, we
That's
actually
a good point.
don't know.
That's a good point.
Now he's credited for the music, of course, too.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, let's. What is this movie? Why does this movie exist? I don't know. You know what I mean? Why does it exist?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm telling you. Every ounce of this production is about the weekend, around the weekend, and this element of just like where it. And I feel like for everyone watching this, there's going to be at least one moment that you just kind of reel back a little bit. And it's like, ooh, sounds like really, really bragging about yourself, huh? There's a moment that you catch the smell of self promotion, and it's just like the weekend is red handed. It's absolutely his fault.
It's too thick.
Here.
That's absolutely.
Yeah. So, allow me to say, if you are a big fan of The Weeknd, these negatives might bounce off you a little bit, and you might be able to enjoy just the style of the film in the way that it is just like a big music video. In a good way, I think this felt very much like 2016's Neon Demon to me, and especially in its odd moments of like horror blended into style. In a bad way, I think this really tries and fails to attempt to have the chaotic flow of 2019's Uncut Gems, which The Weeknd was in as a character.
Man,
but
you will never give an inch on that film. You are locked in and staked to the ground.
Listen, we'll have to cover the Safdies soon. Later on this year.
Another one. Yeah.
So I'll get to Uncut Gems.
I'm sure you're excited.
But I think mostly you should steer clear from this, not because it's the worst movie of the year, but because we all have enough commercials in our life. We're going to go ahead and give Hurry Up Tomorrow a 39.
39%. Very good, Vin. The old Kane Mutiny.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably the most modern Kane Mutiny.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you know what? Like I said, I don't know what he's doing.
Listen, I feel like once you're and this even counts for me, if I was explained in some degree of detail of what I just went for the review, if I had that pitched to me, I wouldn't see this. I just wouldn't watch this.
I think most people wouldn't. Yeah, by the way, The Weeknd, I don't think has that big of a pull. I know how big it is, a huge pop star, whatever, but come on.
It is, and to have theater space, release this on, I don't know,
it's
Apple
true.
or
That's
something.
True, too. It has a wide release,
pair it with an album release on Apple Music or something. You know what I mean? There's something there.
It's already commercial, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. There's a savvier business move, and I think in a way that doesn't try to masquerade as something it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
It's a doozy. It's not a 0, though. But
no, 39. I mean, that does say something.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It is getting trashed big time. So I'm glad we were able to put our mark on it, I guess. Hey, just a reminder, folks, Vin and I are going off the value for value model here, okay? So we're not going to have any commercials coming at you like The Weeknd.
No new albums.
No paywalls, no tier structures on our site. You don't have to give us any kind of money to get access to our content. It's all out there technically for free. But the idea is if you're finding it valuable, so you're using or you're listening to the podcast, you're using the website, we ask you, can you send us some value back? It's a value for value model. You go to thedailyratings.com and head to the donations tab, and through your monetary support, through the donations you send in, you become actual legitimate producers of the Daily Ratings. Just like in Hollywood, when you financially support a project, you're a producer of the project. And we also want to hear from you. We want to bring you into the conversation. When you become a producer, email us a producer note. You can email us at tom.vin@thedailyratings.com. And your note can be questions, comments, critiques, start a conversation, add to a conversation, whatever. If you're a producer, we want to hear what you have to say. So you get the thanks right here in the producer segment. We'll give you the shout out, read your note. Yeah, it's a good time. We're building a small little Daily Ratings family here. Again, it's dailyratings.com. If you're finding what we're doing here somewhat valuable, what does that mean? Peg whatever amount that you want, as big or as small as you'd like. And like I said, that's the way we're doing it here. So I think with that, we'll just keep it going.
Sure.
We're on a roll here. So we have Final Destination Bloodlines. This is the 6th movie in the franchise.
Yep.
This is the first movie since the last one that came out was 2011.
I think so. Yep.
I'll tell you what. We don't have any familiar faces in this movie. Almost nobody was in our database.
I think the director was he's done Disney Channel movies or some shit.
And I think that's where he got some of the cast.
Yeah, for real.
That being said, I think it had a $50 million budget, and it's already made 117 worldwide. So it's it's making its money. It already has. It's printing. It's in the green. And This, I guess, has some type of following. This
yeah.
was the horror thing to go see this week.
Sure.
It had the biggest slot, so it just seems like it's surprising, kind of successful.
Yeah, it definitely was a packed theater on Friday night. It did surprise me, but I guess, it shouldn't. Horror always has that.
And it's actually getting decent ratings. This is some of the best ratings in the entire 6-movie franchise so far.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, maybe we can maybe you'll have to bring in that bird energy, to this.
Right.
But why don't you get into
really try to appreciate it the best I can.
Exactly right. But listen, Final Destination, Bloodlines. Are we happy that we're revitalizing this? I'm assuming already. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got 2 more in the book.
I didn't stay for the post-credit, but I think there was a post-credit.
Really?
And it's also, I'll comment on a second. These legacy revivals, these legacy sequels, however you want to refer to it, they're not bringing them back just for 1. They're bringing them back at least for 3.
I bet they have a thing in their mind. They say, okay, if it hits this on opening weekend, or if we manage to get this at the end of the day at the box office, green lighted, boom, go.
Yeah,
and I think they got it.
Yeah,
so.
I think they did too. Well, boy, oh boy, I cannot tell you just how not excited I was for this. I was damn near kicking and screaming to
It's true,
Tom.
folks. It's true. It's true.
And Tom was really, you were repping it for this because
I was repping it. What's the biggest release of the week? I mean, what else are we going to do?
It's true, and I like your point. There was hype around this. There was people were saying
rumblings.
It's the best of the series. I heard shit like that.
Yeah.
So.
Listen, the weekend can't carry his own movie, let alone a podcast for the week.
Yeah, we needed a better news slot. As a little background here, which I mentioned this story at some point on the podcast, I was a chronic little baby boy when it came to horror movies growing up. Mm-hmm. One of our producers, Jesse, had a birthday party. I was, I think it was going to, I want to say the 3rd Final Destination. And holy hell, did I just cook up every excuse in the book to get out of it. I don't know what I landed on by the end, but I think I was brainstorming on that one. I won't make any excuses for, being a little pussy, but I will say the big horror movies of my adolescence were all the same type of gore fest that just did not excite me, did not scratch what I like in horror movies now. I'm talking Saw, I'm talking Final Destination, Hostile, Human Centipede. Mm-hmm. These were the big horror properties of really both of us kind of growing up.
Lower budget films that had big cult followings and were able to get headlines.
And gore focus, most of all.
Yeah.
So, it's important to note that I'm coming in fresh, but specifically I am blind to the highlights of the original, like what elements worked in the first place, why it got into a series.
Right,
I get the broad strokes, of course, but I can't really key into that so well.
Maybe that's good because honestly, I mean, we're treating this like an actual reboot anyway.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
Because now that we're 10 years, well, more than 10 years, 15, they're trying to hook another generation.
They definitely are. And I think that is honestly the goal for any legacy sequel. Let's bring it to the next generation. So, as the 6th installment of the series, I, Vincent Daly, ask, who really gives a bringing this back is exactly the same shade of what I said about I Know What You Did Last Summer coming back in our little trailer talk. There is no gas left in the tank on these ideas. I think this potentially tries to work as a prequel. The subtitle of Bloodlines refers to kind of a whole family affected by the Final Destination curse. Mm-hmm. But this is a perfect example. I'm really unsure as what is the canon that connects the series' famous, death premonitions together, especially when the franchise routinely kills off its entire cast with each entry. So I just don't know. I'm sure it's probably just the premonitions themselves tie it all together, but...
the fact of.
Yeah, I couldn't spot the prequel bait or further sequel bait.
Right, yeah.
Final Destination Bloodlines is, of course, the gore-fest disaster movie that wants you to squirm in your seat, expecting the worst possible slaughter you could imagine on screen. We kick off with a fun 1960s intro, setting up really a sandbox of chaos that is in store for us, and I really mean that. Almost everything good and everything bad is laid out in this first intro, which was kind of interesting. I definitely respected that a little bit. Only to settle into the main story following a college girl with dark premonitions masked as nightmares. She seeks out her grandmother, now estranged for having the same visions, and discover her worst dreams are more than true. Death is one tricky dicky, and if you possibly survive your time to go, it will do anything to get you. And the curse now surging backwards in her bloodline to make up for lost time, with death coming for them because of debts unpaid and their lives that should not have been lived in the first place. I have this kind of split. Let's talk about kills and let's talk about spectacle, because I feel like there's a
That's what the movie is.
Yeah, but there's there's different. They work differently here. One being successful, the other not. The kills are all set up fairly well. Mm-hmm. I feel like the magic of this is the agonizing pain of expecting doom. It works so well because it highlights the many things in the room, in the scene, that may, or specifically may not be used. It plays with your expectations, and honestly, I can say it was a fun watch because these scenes get set up, especially in our intro, with such a tight, almost will they, won't they act on this chaotic element.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that intro almost had 20 plus. Like it was like a sandbox of just like all these little moments.
I will say, in a way, it's taking you out of the film. Like you're very much in your head then, because you're in a room and it's just like, oh, what's this guy? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see this. Okay, here we go. Like it is taking you out, but at the same time, it's not a serious movie anyway. So.
Exactly. But I think that's that for me, my rookie analysis of the series.
That's the draw of the series.
Exactly. It's playing with expectations and almost gamifying that a little bit. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, the most effective unnerving comes from your imagination itself. What horrific killing is around the bend, and best of all, the scenes that these scenes work whether you guess that correct or not. I mean, it's the ones that aren't acted on, I think, are even more effective.
Yeah,
because guess what? You just did all the horror work yourself. It might be too much praise to say it, but in spotting these clues in this ways, in essence, is what our characters do as well, which I think is honestly a cool blend of story with audience experience. I think that's an interesting aspect there. But again, that's core to the franchise. That's I think really the meat of it there. In my rookie opinion, I think this had slightly too many gotcha fake out moments, but otherwise it understood the key to that slow twisting agony that what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
Exactly. Spectacle, on the other hand, doesn't do a damn thing for me. In the moments that this boils down to a disaster movie and showing anything large scale, we'll call Spectacle large scale deaths, I honestly just tune out. The overly digital feel does not help this at all.
Oh, okay.
I feel like if we ever cover the big disaster resurgence of the 2000s, maybe we'll have kind of more collected thoughts on this, but it just doesn't do it for me,
It's like visually not striking at all.
No. And looks kind of bad, honestly. They don't use CGI a lot, but CGI comes up in these big spectacle kills when, it's like double-digit head count, and it's just like, well, I don't know. It's just kind of take me to the next one that's up close and personal. You know what I mean? That's where it works. I thought all the big flashy trailer sequences just kind of sucked in this, and these moments feel too prescribed and don't even look good when they're happening. For my money, big set pieces aren't where the franchise works. Keep the gore up close and, oddly enough, semi-predictable to make the audience squirm the most. That's where this worked. And like I said, kind of in a cool way. I don't know if the other movies are meta in this way. Spotting these will they, won't theys with the clues around the room. I think that's essentially what the characters do.
Yeah, and I think it is a thing. I think I've maybe seen 3 of these.
Oh, maybe you should run the special, huh? You're telling me to watch this movie. Turns out we got the X-Men right here.
Listen, it's the same formula, though.
Yeah, true.
It is. I mean, that's what it is. And you do have your big skeptical ones. You have your big spectacle ones, and you have your single, the smaller ones.
Yeah, up close and dirty.
Yeah, right.
I had no idea of that. Really?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a thing.
Yeah.
I think when it came out in 2011 or the 2009 one.
Interesting.
We were in high school, so that was prime. We were prime, targets for it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a good point. I have to be honest, though, this reinforced exactly why I never really returned to these, even after getting into horror. Boring-ass characters, boring-ass plot, and predictable, when it comes to, the big plot movements. I feel like even if the kills were the best thing ever, really just, the best thing I've seen, these movies are always just wrapped up in forgettable garbage just to get us to the next death. The mystery unfolding is so played out, and especially if you're a fan, once again, all the cards are played. Really worse yet, the little beats of drama this tries to build around the family are just a complete eye roll. There is exactly one good character in this, the brother played by Richard Harmon.
Okay.
And he only really worked because he was like a single comic relief character. He was the only one cracking jokes, and it actually kind of worked in that sense. Like, actually, I needed comic relief. So, the rare case of me praising, comedy thrown into a film.
Yeah.
But Tom, just none of this, and I told you this already. Maybe I should have saved this story, but none of this was helped by a guy in my theater going, like every plot development.
He was taken by surprise.
Like, come on, dude.
It's bad. That's bad.
Oh my god. Like, and you said you thought he was like maybe like a little older or something like that, because you do get like older people kind of being more audible or thinking that.
Just lately, for whatever reason, older couples have really been the ones with having the issues.
Which is crazy.
Not the young teenagers.
Yeah.
Like,
right. You think
like, bro,
absolutely be the opposite.
You are not in your living room right now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And I think that's what it was.
Button it up. Button it up. Okay.
Internalize that. I know you're having a revelation on what the plot of this movie is, but you need to keep that in your head.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. A little bit of a spoiled experience there when it came to, the twists and turns of this. What I'll say, folks, this score, it's going to be a real softball, because honestly, I really did feel the pang of needing to know what at least the first movie felt like. I think this was definitely a case, and probably the first case in a very long time, that I said, like, kind of wish I did the full series breakdown on this.
Really?
Yeah, not that I wanted to really watch the movies.
No, I think you would have been very annoyed by the end of it.
I probably would have been a lot more bitter towards this, because I would have been burnt out after 5 movies,
Yes. Yeah.
But I think just that first one, I kind of need to, I would have liked, genuinely, to know the DNA a little bit. So, for me, I can't really gauge how the big kills, so to speak, match up to the rest of the iconic kills of the series. Each movie really has one.
That's a big thing right now.
Exactly.
That's what a lot of what the stories are online.
Yeah.
It's like, let's rank the kills in all the movies.
Oh, so well, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got like the roller coaster, the log truck.
Yes.
I think is in 2. That's super iconic. I not in like a matchup kind of way, but I did feel the need of like, well, how does this match up? You know what I mean?
Interesting.
In the head-to-head for this year alone, and what I can speak to directly, I think The Monkey slightly beats this out with better gore, even though, I mean, that movie was far from great. But the only way I really see this working for fans is all in how those kills stack up against previous entries. But like I said, a little bit of a softball score. We'll see if we ever come back to the rest of the series. We're going to go ahead and give Final Destination Bloodlines a 52.
Okay, real softball.
Yeah, real softball.
That's how you're doing it some favors.
Yeah. Maybe that's the next batch of updates to the scores on the site. We got a softball score.
Well, I think in 52, I think that's probably right. I don't know why it's getting such good reviews, because there's no way it's that good.
And that's where I'm like, maybe if these kills are like, whoa, this is the best of the series, and they're coming back out of nowhere.
That doesn't say much then. It's not like you were over. It's not like you were, these kills were so smart, like really impressive.
Right, yeah. I guess that even says maybe something worse.
Mm-hmm,
but,
right.
Yeah.
That
would be the only way I could see, because, it does have, like, pretty good to great scores online,
I think it just comes down to, man, you can't get much more popcorn of just wanting to go from scene to scene. How are they going to do this one? How are they going to do this one?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 0 brain cells for this film, really.
Absolutely.
I think that for this whole franchise, these 6 movies, you probably live in between 35 and 55.
Yeah, probably.
Honestly, I think,
And in that sense, it wouldn't be worth to do the whole series, because it really just would be
I think it'd be boring. I think it's rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
It's how are the kills in this one? How are the kills in this one?
Yeah.
It kind of seems like terrible from an actual kind of critic review type thing.
Sure.
Because then you get into that problem of... These movies are only about this one type of thing. But anyway, 52%, I could see it being way worse. Like, almost in a way, it is doing well.
Yeah, right.
The fact that it actually made it to a 52 says a lot.
That I would say it's on the positive side of the coin.
That's right.
I would say maybe check it out,
A laundry folding movie when it pops on Netflix.
But honestly, it really, I get the fun of scanning the scene, spotting the will they, won't they.
And let's be honest, that is a lot of the famous horror franchises and like what you brought up. I mean, the concept of it, you have the writer, director sit down in a room, and it's like, okay, we know we have this many kills for a movie, or we want to do this many. Let's just throw spaghetti on the wall.
Yep.
I think same thing with Saw. What are the crazy way we can torture people this one?
Oh, especially later entries.
Like the creative process.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. What can we cook up? What's the real jaw on the floor type of kill? So
okay, 52%. Quick episode here, Vince.
Yeah, I'm glad.
But yeah, well, we
get a great week.
Well, we don't have to. Yeah, we don't have to stick to. I mean, Hurry Up and Final Destination. I don't think deserve 20+ minute reviews too much. And
what I will say with Final Destination, though, is honestly, folks, if you are a diehard fan of the series, write in. I would love to hear, one, is my split of kill and spectacles on the money?
Right, yeah.
Because I really do think there's a difference between, is the kill up close or is it, like, really big? And how that feels. But also, I really would love to hear, like, what's the best of the series from our audience.
That would be fun to get.
Yeah.
So we're not on USA Today or something like that. That's terrible. I don't even know.
Do they write into USA Today?
No. Just say, well, every single thing is let's rate the Final Destinations. Let's rate the kills. Because it actually has some sort of headline buzz because it did well at the box office.
Yeah. Closer to like The Verge or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so looking at these scores, anything you want to touch on for this week, and what do we got coming up? I mean,
nothing for this week. Next week, it's Lilo and Stitch. It's Mission Impossible.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Final Reckoning. Actually, I say this for you almost exclusively, Tom. I've enjoyed Tom Cruise in the press release for this film.
Oh, really?
He's been very charming, and I believe me, I would not say that about Tom Cruise.
He's back. I'm telling you, I think he's back in.
Yeah.
With good graces. I think after Fallout and after I don't even know. There was something else I was thinking about the other day. And it's just like, hey, Tom Cruise is back. He is back.
well, Top Gun,
Right. Oh, duh. Yeah.
Yeah. Real Jets, Real G's has now outlived Top Gun.
Top Gun Maverick. It's a big, but it's kicking off summer. It is Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so true. That is good timing.
Yes, it's summer. Summer is here, and this is it.
Because I think my initial comment was like, why did they give up the July slot, to not play in the sandbox with, all the superhero films in Jurassic Park? But no, that's a good point. Memorial Day is as much of a, free weekend to see something.
Well, going through what we've got, when we did the news show this past one, going through all the summer stuff, it's so packed, I probably would want to get in early. Because by August, when it really starts to go, I think there's going to be fatigue. I think people are going to be movied out.
For sure.
And not to mention the Dead Reckoning Part 1, it got kind of shafted.
Yeah.
And because it did have that July 4th release last time.
Yeah, and maybe that plays into it. Yeah, it didn't do like phenomenally well.
No, it did poor.
Yeah.
It did not do
outright.
great. Yeah.
Sure.
But okay, all right. So I can't wait. I'm very excited. And that'll be next week. We got some big movies. So, well, Vin, thank you for watching these. Thank you for stopping by here this evening. Folks at home, we'll run it down one more time. We have 1963 The Birds, Old Alfie with a 47%. We then have Hurry Up Tomorrow with a 39 and Final Destination with a 52. Yeah, the bell curve for this. I'm not. It was a rougher week.
A little rough.
Okay, we'll see if Stitch Impossible can do something about it next week. So, folks, as always, it's a great time, and we will see you next week right here on the Daily Ratings Podcast. And hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or get the word out and tell a friend about us. And just a reminder that the Daily Ratings is completely producer-supported. We want to stay away from advertising, and we don't want to have any paywalls or tier structures or subscriptions. It's all just value for value. So, are you finding value in what we're doing here at the Daily Ratings? Then become a producer and donate whatever amount of value that is. Just go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com, and while you're there, be sure to check out the massive amount of films that Vince has rated. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.